What if I told you that everything you've been told about laziness is wrong? Not slightly off. Completely, demonstrably, scientifically wrong. Here's what neuroscience has quietly confirmed, while the self-help industry kept selling you productivity planners and 5 a.m. wake-up routines. Laziness, as a character flaw, does not exist. What does exist is emotional depletion, a measurable, physiological state in which your brain's prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for motivation, decision-making, and goal pursuit, goes offline to protect you from further damage. This isn't "you just need more discipline" nonsense. This is hard science. Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett's research at Northeastern University shows that your brain operates like a ruthless budget manager, constantly regulating energy expenditure. When emotional resources run dry, your brain doesn't malfunction. It makes a calculated decision to stop spending. What looks like laziness from the outside is actually your nervous system executing a sophisticated survival protocol. Nobody tells you that part. Ancient wisdom traditions called this state soul fatigue. Modern neuroscience calls it allostatic overload. They're describing the same thing. A system that has given everything and been given nothing back. Today, I'm going to walk you through 10 specific techniques that exploit your brain's hidden recovery mechanisms. Each one is grounded in research. Each one works faster than you think. And together, they form a complete system for reclaiming the energy that was never laziness to begin with. Let's uncover the truth your exhaustion has been trying to tell you. Part 1. The emotional audit activation. Most people believe that feeling tired after a full night's sleep means something is physically wrong with them. Bad iron levels, perhaps. Thyroid issues. Not enough coffee. They chase physical explanations for what is fundamentally an emotional phenomenon. Here's the revelation that changes everything. Research published in the Journal of Applied Psychology confirms that emotional labor, the invisible work of managing your feelings, regulating your reactions, and meeting others' emotional needs, consumes the same measurable neural glucose as intense physical exercise. You can sleep 9 hours and wake up depleted because your brain spent the entire previous day doing work that nobody counted, nobody compensated, and nobody acknowledged. This is technique number 1 out of 10. The emotional audit activation. Each evening, take 5 uninterrupted minutes with a journal and answer 3 questions. What emotional labor did I perform today that I didn't choose? Who or what consumed my regulated energy without reciprocating? What feeling did I suppress or postpone today? Write without editing. Write without solving. Simply inventory what actually happened in your emotional body, not just your calendar. What this practice does neurologically is extraordinary. It activates the brain's interoceptive awareness system, pulling suppressed emotional data from the body's stress storage and naming it in the prefrontal cortex, the same neural mechanism that reduces amygdala reactivity by up to 50%, as demonstrated in UCLA research. Unseen labor drains you silently. Seen labor can finally be set down. Begin this audit tonight and watch the invisible weight of unacknowledged exhaustion start lifting within 7 days. Part 2. The nervous system permission sequence. Here's something that will blow your mind. One of the primary reasons emotionally drained people cannot rest is that their nervous system doesn't recognize rest as safe. This sounds paradoxical. It is not. It is one of the most well-documented patterns in trauma-informed neuroscience. When your system has been in chronic stress mode, responding to emotional demands, relational unpredictability, or sustained pressure, your brain's threat detection circuitry begins interpreting stillness as danger. The absence of a problem starts feeling like a problem waiting to happen. Resting becomes physiologically uncomfortable because your nervous system has been rewired to equate alertness with survival. This is technique number 2 out of 10. The nervous system permission sequence. Lie down or sit fully supported. Place one hand on your chest and one on your abdomen. Speak these words aloud, slowly, with deliberate pauses between each. I am allowed to stop. Nothing is required of me right now. My only task is to receive. Then breathe in for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Out for 8. Repeat this breath pattern 6 times without any other agenda. Practice this sequence every afternoon for 14 consecutive days. Even if only for 4 minutes, the extended exhale activates your parasympathetic nervous system through vagal stimulation. But the spoken permission does something equally critical. It engages your prefrontal cortex to consciously override the threat signal that chronic stress has attached to inactivity. You are essentially reprogramming your brain's definition of safety. Grant yourself permission deliberately and watch your body finally learn that stillness is not surrender. It is strategy. Part 3. The Depletion Source Mapping Protocol. Conventional productivity culture offers one solution for low energy. Do more. Wake earlier. Optimize harder. Eliminate weaknesses. The entire framework assumes that exhaustion is a deficit of effort rather than an excess of drain. Groundbreaking research in occupational psychology distinguishes clearly between 2 types of fatigue. Effort fatigue, which resolves with physical rest, and meaning fatigue, which intensifies with rest unless the underlying source of depletion is identified and addressed. This is why vacations don't always work. You can remove yourself from the environment without removing yourself from the dynamic that's consuming you. The drain travels with you. This is technique number 3 out of 10. The Depletion Source Mapping Protocol. Draw a simple grid with 4 quadrants on a blank page. Label them: people, environments, thoughts, and obligations. Spend 10 minutes populating each quadrant with everything in your current life that costs you more than it returns. Be brutally specific, not work, but the 3 p.m. status meeting where I perform enthusiasm I don't have. Once the map is complete, circle the single largest drain in each quadrant. You now have 4 priority targets. What you've just created is a personalized energy ledger. Research in self-determination theory, pioneered by Dissey and Ryan at the University of Rochester, demonstrates that identifying autonomy thwarting obligations, things you do from fear, guilt, or social pressure rather than genuine values, is the first neurological step toward reducing their cortisol cost. You cannot address what you cannot see. Map your depletion with precision and watch the path toward restoration suddenly become visible. Part 4. The micro-restoration injection. Most trained people believe that recovery requires large, uninterrupted blocks of time, a weekend away, a week off, a complete life restructuring. So they wait for the perfect conditions. The conditions never arrive. The exhaustion compounds. Here's the counterintuitive discovery that changes the math entirely. Research from Baylor University, published in the Journal of Applied Psychology, found that short, intentional breaks of 7 to 10 minutes, specifically those that involve low demand, intrinsically enjoyable activity, restore cognitive and emotional resources more efficiently than longer breaks involving passive consumption, like scrolling. The brain recovers not through inactivity, but through safe engagement that asks nothing of your regulatory systems. This is technique number 4 out of 10. The micro-restoration injection. Identify 3 activities that engage you with 0 performance pressure. Activities you do purely because they feel good with no outcome attached. Examples: tending a single plant, sketching without purpose, listening to one piece of music with full attention, walking without a destination or time limit. Schedule one of these activities as a non-negotiable 10-minute block, twice daily, for 21 days. Protect these appointments with the same ferocity you'd give a medical procedure. What unfolds neurologically is a sequential deactivation of your default stress circuitry. The brain's reward system releases dopamine during intrinsically motivated activity, which directly counteracts the cortisol accumulated through obligatory performance. Ancient cultures built rest rituals into daily architecture, not as luxury, but as essential maintenance. The science now shows they were right to do so. Inject micro-restoration consistently, and watch your overall energy ceiling rise in ways that no amount of sleep has been able to achieve. Part 5. The Boundary Articulation Method. There is a myth so pervasive, it has become cultural oxygen, that genuinely caring people don't need boundaries because love is boundless. Spiritual traditions and family systems have used this myth to extract unlimited emotional labor from the most empathetic people for generations. Neuroscience dismantles this completely. Research by Dr. Henry Cloud confirms that the absence of healthy limits doesn't produce more love. It produces resentment, dissociation, and ultimately complete emotional shutdown. Your brain interprets chronic boundary violations as sustained threat exposure. Over time, this degrades your hippocampus, the brain structure central to memory and emotional processing, with the same measurable impact as prolonged trauma. Endless giving without replenishment is not virtue. It is a slow neurological injury. This is technique number 5 out of 10. The Boundary Articulation Method. Choose one recurring situation where you consistently give more than you want to. Craft a single clear sentence that represents your actual limit. Using this structure, I'm not available for a specific thing, and what I can offer instead is specific alternative. Practice speaking this sentence aloud to yourself 10 times before deploying it in the actual situation. Repeat the process for one new situation every week for 8 weeks. The repetition is not merely rehearsal. It is neurological preparation. Each spoken repetition builds myelin around the neural pathway associated with self-advocacy, making the behavior faster and less cognitively costly each time. Your brain literally gets better at limits through practice. Articulate your edges with clarity and watch the chronic exhaustion of endless accommodation begin to dissolve. Part 6. The Emotional Completion Circuit. Here's something the wellness industry rarely acknowledges. A significant portion of chronic emotional fatigue is not caused by current circumstances. It is caused by unfinished emotional experiences from the past that your nervous system is still actively processing in the background. Consuming energy around the clock, like an app that never closes. Dr. Emily Nagoski's research, outlined in her book Burnout, introduces the concept of the stress response cycle, a biological sequence that must reach completion for the body to return to baseline. Humans are wired to complete emotional experiences through physical expression, social connection, or creative output. When these completions are consistently interrupted by busyness, social norms, or the cultural mandate to move on, the incomplete cycles accumulate in the body as chronic fatigue, numbness, and inexplicable resistance. This is technique number 6 out of 10. The Emotional Completion Circuit. Once per week, choose one unfinished emotional experience, something that still carries a charge when you think about it. Set a timer for 20 minutes. Write the full story of that experience in present tense, as if it's happening now, without editing for logic or fairness. At the end of the writing, describe in 3 sentences the outcome you needed but didn't receive. Then stand up and move your body for 5 minutes. Walk, shake, dance. Whatever feels instinctive. The writing activates explicit memory processing in your hippocampus, while the physical movement completes the stress response motor sequence that the original experience left unfinished. Together, they close the loop your nervous system has been trying to close for months or years. Commit to this circuit weekly and watch background exhaustion lift as your nervous system finally gets to put down what it's been carrying. Part 7. The Identity Reclamation Practice. Most chronically drained people have, without realizing it, built their entire sense of self around what they do for others. Their identity has become a function, caretaker, problem solver, reliable one, strong one, rather than a person. And maintaining a functional identity is neurologically expensive in a way that maintaining an authentic one is not. Psychologist Dr. Tara Brach calls this the trance of unworthiness, a state in which people operate under a constant, unconscious belief that their value is contingent on their usefulness. Research in identity theory confirms that role-based self-concept, defining yourself primarily through what you do rather than who you are, correlates strongly with emotional burnout. Because when your performance falters, your entire sense of self comes under threat. The exhaustion isn't just from doing. It's from the relentless vigilance of being enough. This is technique number 7 out of 10. The identity reclamation practice. Each morning for 30 days, before checking any device, write the answer to this single question. Who am I when nothing is required of me? Do not write roles or relationships. Write qualities, sensations, values, and desires. Aim for 5 to 7 genuine responses. Over the 30 days, notice which qualities appear repeatedly. These are the elements of your authentic self that exhaustion has buried. Neuroscience demonstrates that consistent, self-referential processing, thinking about your own values and characteristics, activates the medial prefrontal cortex in a way that builds psychological resilience and reduces threat reactivity. You are not rebuilding confidence. You are reconstructing the neurological architecture of a self that exists independently of its output. Practice this daily and watch the crushing weight of performed identity gradually release its grip on your energy. Part 8. The glymphatic recharge protocol. Here's a discovery so recent that most doctors haven't yet integrated it into their practice. Your brain has its own waste removal system, the glymphatic system, that operates almost exclusively during sleep, flushing out toxic metabolic byproducts, including those generated by emotional stress processing. When this system is consistently compromised, those neural toxins accumulate. And their primary symptom is not physical tiredness. It is motivational paralysis and emotional flatness, the precise experience people mistake for laziness. University of Rochester research, led by Dr. Maiken Nedergaard, revealed that the glymphatic system is 60% more active during sleep, and that its efficiency is dramatically reduced by alcohol, irregular sleep timing, and critically, the elevated cortisol produced by unresolved emotional stress. You are not just tired because you didn't sleep enough. You are tired because your brain's cleaning crew has been working in impossible conditions. This is technique number 8 out of 10. The glymphatic recharge protocol. For the next 21 days, implement these 4 non-negotiable sleep conditions. A fixed sleep time that does not vary by more than 30 minutes. A room temperature between P-68 degrees Fahrenheit, P-20 degrees Celsius. Complete darkness achieved by blackout curtains or a sleep mask. And a 10-minute pre-sleep body scan that begins at your feet and moves deliberately upward, releasing each muscle group consciously before sleep. No screens for 45 minutes prior. These conditions collectively optimize glymphatic activation. The body scan specifically reduces residual cortisol by engaging the parasympathetic system through progressive muscle awareness, creating the neurological conditions in which your brain can finally, thoroughly clean itself. Protect these conditions fiercely and watch emotional flatness and motivational fog begin clearing within 2 weeks. Part 9. The resonant connection reset. Chronic emotional depletion has not only come from giving too much, it also comes in ways that are far less discussed, from the sustained absence of genuine connection. Not surface-level interaction, not digital engagement, not productivity-adjacent conversation. Real, resonant human contact in which you feel genuinely seen, not merely useful. Neuroscientist Dr. John Cacioppo's decades of research on loneliness confirm that perceived social isolation activates the same neural threat pathways as physical pain. More striking still, his findings show that it's not the quantity of social interaction that determines emotional replenishment. It's the quality of attunement within those interactions. You can be surrounded by people all day, performing connection, and still be profoundly, biologically lonely. That loneliness is one of the most energy-consumptive states your nervous system can occupy. This is technique number 9 out of 10. The resonant connection reset. Identify one person in your life, just one, with whom you feel genuinely at ease. No performance, no management, no emotional labor. Reach out within 48 hours of completing this session. Schedule a minimum 30-minute interaction that has no agenda, no problem to solve, and no role for you to play. During the interaction, practice this single discipline. Instead of responding with your own experience, ask one follow-up question to what they share. Repeat this weekly. Co-regulation, the neurological process by which two calm nervous systems synchronize, is one of the fastest and most clinically validated pathways to parasympathetic restoration. Your brain literally borrows calm from a regulated nervous system in close proximity. This is not metaphor, it is measurable neurobiology. Prioritize resonant connection weekly and watch the specific exhaustion of invisible loneliness begin to dissolve. Part 10. The Meaning Restoration System. Here's the deepest truth that every piece of research on burnout ultimately uncovers. The most devastating form of emotional depletion is not caused by working too hard. It is caused by working in sustained disconnection from meaning. Viktor Frankl observed this in the most extreme conditions imaginable, and his insight has since been confirmed by decades of occupational psychology. Humans can endure enormous hardship when it feels purposeful, and collapse under modest demands when it feels pointless. Research by Dr. Michael Steger at Colorado State University demonstrates that a sense of meaning acts as a neurological buffer against stress. It literally modulates cortisol reactivity, reduces threat appraisal, and sustains motivational dopamine in the face of difficulty. When meaning is absent, the brain reclassifies formerly manageable demands as threats. The work hasn't changed. The absence of meaning has changed everything about how your brain processes it. This is technique number 10 out of 10. The Meaning Restoration System. Once per month, block 45 uninterrupted minutes and answer these 4 questions in writing. What am I doing right now that I would choose even if I weren't being evaluated for it? What do I want to have made possible for someone else by the end of this year? What quality do I want to embody more fully, not perform, but genuinely become? What would I do differently if I trusted that my effort was enough? Read your answers aloud. Let them land. Carry one phrase forward as your anchor for the month ahead.